Hello, it's Frankie. Good day. I would like to share with you about my knowing of China. What is China and where's her position in the world setting today? Well, this report is from a layman's eye. So if you want to have something technical, I would suggest you to visit some other professional Wikipedias or websites. I have done this topic in a Chinese version, a Cantonese version. So for those who are interested to listen to Cantonese, you may want to click the link at the end of this video clip to make this production. Other than personal day-to-day observation, I do research, reading, and look into quite a lot of websites. Well, here I suggest two major references that you may want to look into as well. The book When China Rules the World by Martin Jack and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights by the United Nations. The book When China Rules the World, Martin Jack, he interviews and visits a lot of cities and towns in China. So he makes his book and he has concluded his findings and described Chinese modernity with X key characteristics to sum and thought. I beefed these characteristics up into two dimensions: the geographic civil side of China and her foreign affairs policies. Jack calls China a civilization state. It means China is not only a name of country, but represents a type of civilization. With an at least 3,000 years literal history, China politically developed from a feudal system, imperial dynasty, and now a republic. China is the third largest country in the world. On this big piece of land, there are different forms of landscapes, say basins, hills, inland lakes, extremely cold and extremely dry lands, even deserts. There are 1.4 billion of people living there. So if you know the full name of China, it is the People's Republic of China, PRC. In this country, there are 55 peoples, or 105 million ethnical minority mixed with the major race Han living together. They migrate and mingle. People could be highly educated and living in modern cities like Shenzhen, Shanghai, or Chengdu, or little educated living in huts or nomad tents in Tibet with no electric power at all. Chinese people are literally in uneven resource distribution. It could be a decades-long project for the country to finalize poverty. Thus, China as a country still bears the characteristics of developing country and at the same time modernized. Under the constitution, even with a few registered politics party, China is governed by one and only one party, Communist Party of China, or CPC, from the day PRC established in year 1949. Early founders of CPC studied in the West and brought the ideology communism home and prolonged it widely, especially to the poor and peasants. Even so, communism is no longer the governing theme, but socialism with Chinese characteristics. Well, there are signs of socialism, say 5-year plan, 10-year plan, joint public-private cooperation, and admiring social welfare. But if you look closer, you could see a governing formula carries forward from the long history river. Chinese ruling concepts are filled with traditional ideologies like Confucianism, Nihilism, warring Shenji, doctrines of power of balance, etc. They impact decision-making process of all levels of government and leaders. Regarding foreign affairs policy, Jack traced it back to the ancient tributary-state system. This system was characterized by the enormous inequality that exists between China on the one hand and its neighboring states on the other, together with a mutual belief in the superiorities of Chinese culture. Neighboring states periodically send diplomats and pay tributes and distinguished native produce to Chinese emperor. The emperor would return the diplomats and delegation a much nicer package, say refined products, porcelains, or coins. Same kind of quasi-tributary system is still confined to East Asia today, and further to countries in Africa. China has long experience to deal with various cultures, and she really knows the meaning of poor since she has been. China does not aim at benefits or political privileges in the first place. She believes that once people get a better life, they would open themselves for business. She provides direct aid or low-interest loan to poor countries and help them to build infrastructure without hidden terms. To return gratitude, China would be the first country this country approach when they open up. This foreign affairs philosophy is very simple. Mutual respect, no intervention. Government deals with government, business deals with business. This kind of foreign affairs mentality is just no match with the West. Okay, now let's turn to politics. Western political culture upholds freedom, human rights, and democracy. You may trace back the theory of democracy from 18th century, if not from ancient Roman emperor. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights could be the foundation of international human rights law and respond to the general cry of democracy today after the Second World War. And this declaration was proclaimed by United Nations in the year 1948. It announced all human beings are born free and equal without distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex, language, religion, political birth, or other status before the law. Everyone has the right to freedom of thought, of opinion, of assemblies. Everyone has the duty and right to serve public service. The will of the people shall be the basis of the authority of government. This will shall be expressed in periodic elections, which shall be by universal and equal suffrage. However, because of various historical development and cultural differences, countries all over the world present themselves differently. For example, France, UK, and USA all uphold democracy, human rights, freedom, and universal suffrage, but are operating in vast different formats. Then, how is the Chinese political system? As mentioned, China is running under socialism by unitary one-party, CPC. The coverage of CPC is broad. Currently, there are about 90 million CPC members, 1/15 of the population. The majority of them are working in private or public sectors, enterprises, or governmental institutions. According to China's regulations, it's not necessary to be a CPC member if you are just a civil servant, but there must be a CPC member in a corporate board, and all the top position in the Congress and state councils are CPC members. Well, other than that, they are also members in almost every district, every residential district. If you remember the incredible city lockdowns early 2020, put aside the early few days of chaos, cities and towns were basically under peace once orders were released. District members and volunteers seems to know what to do, came to the positions almost by instinct. People follow rules without much struggles. That's a miracle the world couldn't comprehend even today. It's an honor to join the CPC in China. To join the party, nomination is primary. To move up the ladders into the party congress or central committee further, you must be nominated further and win through the election inside. Yes, even though there's no universal suffrage, but there are elections. Election could go in secret or under the sun. Posts like village chief or corporate chairs are now under monitoring open election. In front of the nomination, nominees' past record, experience, performance, families and personalities, all of them are being scrutinized. The Central Committee for Discipline Inspection observed officials' integrities and has a say to official promotion. To promote into those leading positions is not by direct delegation, but by competition. So can you imagine how many hardships and trials one might have gone through before moving up the ladder and end up into the positions like general secretaries and state presidents or premiers of the country? Democracy in the West. Through voting or universal suffrage, people can express their will to vote out a politics party or policies that they dislike. But, however, there are pros and cons. Rotative governments can't secure stable policies no matter how good those policies may be. At the same time, politics party, they other than promoting their policy, they also have to put aside a big effort to keep their position, to keep their party in office. To fight for positions or leaderships, politics party may put aside a great effort in competition. It could be a big waste of resources. But under the unitary one-party system, policies could be executed more effectively, like in China. In the long history river, China had been in absolute imperial governance as well as the influence of Confucianism. People are expected to follow rules before arguing, as they believe rules are for their good. Government care people like parents to children. So, if the government do not care to her children as she could, the throne will be overturned in a way, as no ruling is forever. In contemporary history of PRC, the massive Tencent earthquake and consecutive death of 3 prominent leaders in year 1976 were subtly regarded as an announce to the top. So after that, there was a dramatic redirection of policies. The West always argue if there is freedom or human rights in China. According to the constitutions and laws, Chinese people can voice out, can publicize, can assemble, bound by regulations. Yes, publication in China could be in wide spectrum, but all the publications have to be approved before putting out to print. That's red line. For example, you can find the original Fang Fang's Wuhan diary online or translated version abroad, but there's no Chinese version. Why? Because it's not allowed to print inside. Assembly and protest are allowed with application and permits granted ahead. Occasionally, people may crowd in the public caused by anger or unsettled issues. Police may or may not arrest. China is an atheist country. You may have heard news like destroying cross and Christian church buildings, relocating Buddhist temples, re-educating Xinjiang Muslims and Tibet monks. Yes, they are all true. State's barrier of religious affairs oversees religious affairs and movement in China. According to the barrier, the concern is on society's stability. Beliefs is not a matter of holy or not, but to be monitored. Guidance is given to religious institutions, say by laws, is prohibited to promote a belief to age under 18. Spread of religious beliefs are being monitored. The barrier aims to prevent people from harmful cults or irrational blindness. That's what they say. Before you ask if Chinese people are happy or not, I would like to give you more examples of Chinese-style government intervention. Government encourages competition, education, innovation, and saving. There are many mega joint public and private corporations. These mega firms fight fiercely for policies and business for thin profit margins. Once companies come to certain size, they will be asked to split. There could be oligopoly, but never monopoly power in China. The government won't allow over arbitrary investment. Innovation is encouraged, but the extent of the reach is not. So you may have heard of sudden hold of Ant Corp's IPO recently, Fan Bingbing's penalties of taxes avoidance, or ominous Wuhan's China rich list. There could be age-old literal families, but there are no age-old wealthy families like Rothschilds in China. In another sense, you can save and make yourself rich, but it could never be over wealthy in China. The numbers of middle incomers is more than 400 million, a number greater than US population. Is it amazing? General Chinese people retire early at the age of 50 or 55, covered either by government retirement plan or annuity insurance. Many Chinese people, they earn well when they work, and then they retire early, and then they have money in their pocket so they can spend. So back to the topic. Are there human rights in China? Yes, but not in Western concepts. The West concerns privacy and personal rights, but Chinese people are more willing to yield individuality for collective benefits. For example, Chinese people don't reject surveillance monitors, which they regarded as protection more than offenses. So you can see monitors on the streets, outside the buildings, and everywhere. They think monitors reduce controversial arguments and promote good deeds. It helps reduce crime rate. Well, the West concerns privacy and personal rights, so they may not want to have monitors everywhere. On to the list of OECD Better Lives Index. China's position was pretty low. But if you interview Chinese on the street, you can see and feel the self-confidence within. Many of them has a delightful expectation to another day. Chinese people constantly show more than 90% a very high acceptance to CPC and approval to the development of the country. You may be jealous or disapprove of the power of CPC, but the load of the government is tremendously heavy as Chinese people wait on government's guidance heavily. You can't downplay the view of care to people by the government. There's even a state barrier of letter and calls, which serve to listen to and supposedly to react to complain to local unfairness. And this observation also serves as performance to the local officials when they apply for promotion. Let's come to the position of China in this world setting. Hard and soft powers of China are no longer the same as 40 years ago. Concerning the hard powers of China, we can look into the military and economic side. To insist unity and protection, China has so far built up a modern army, like aircraft carriers, submarines, missiles, feudal GPS with quite a lot of satellites above, and artificial islands. For economics, China is placed at number 1 in international trade, imports and exports. In terms of GDP, China is the second place after USA. In the year 2020, after the attack of COVID virus over the world. China is the only country making a positive growth while the rest of the world fail, if not in huge collapse. Not by force, but by investing in infrastructure. The Belt and Road scheme is successfully linking the East and the rest of the world. It lifts many African countries from waiting for mercy to a role player in international trade by exporting raw materials for manufacturing items. Infrastructure building, foreign investing, factory moving in, tourists coming from China. Asian countries boom solidly. Like it or not, Chinese speed is amazing. From nobody to a superpower in 70 years or 40 years starting from opening up. The influence of China is omnipresent. How about soft powers? Confucian College is a mean for non-Chinese to learn Chinese culture in the West. Chinese language is now one of the most learned second language in the world. Kung Fu, pandas, Mulan are cultural icons. Unmanned drone, GPS, Chinese medical science, 5G, they are worldwide competitive. But yet, there's still a long way for China to become a superpower. China has signed the Declaration of Human Rights and agrees of the virtues, but yet it really takes a pace to meet the Western standard. Other than traditional pride, China is still observing if there is anything negative that China does not want to follow. It may not be fair to ask a 70 years old country in the East to imitate a 400 years old Western democracy mode without really tasting the dosages. From another way round, China stands for another type of culture. Does the West acknowledge this new type of culture? And she will move towards a more open and less restricted society. China has declared clearly that she will continue to open up. She will move toward a more open and less restricted society. It will be an ongoing process, and China promised that. China will never go after hegemonism. Chinese rulers have a very clear mind. They serve Chinese people, not otherwise. The report is finishing here. If it pleased you, give me a like. I would like to have your comment. So please leave a few words and spark up this clip. Thank you very much.